Good. Okay, we are live. Welcome to Revolution Network. This is Dr. Jason Dean, and I'm with a very cool individual. So a couple weeks ago, I got to interview Ted Nugent, who is a patriot, a complete American, and he said, you need to talk to my wife, and I kind of followed her already, and from a health standpoint. But first of all, Shemane, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. And so let me give a little background on you, because you have quite the impressive background. You are a TV host, you're an author, you're a blogger, you have quite a bit of health experience background. Give us a little bit more information on yourself so people can kind of get a little bit about you, because it's great that they know your rocker husband, but you have an amazing stature yourself.
Well, thank you. I have been teaching group fitness classes since 1980, and I was on my own healthy lifestyle journey until we discovered that we had toxic mold growing between the walls of our home that was once featured on MTV Cribs. We just kept getting sicker and sicker, and this was back in the year 2001, 2002. And I went to numerous doctors who just literally told me everything from, I'm not kidding you, Dr. Ty in Michigan told me, maybe you're too healthy, maybe you should try eating fast food. Not kidding you. And I went to dozens of expert specialists. I had severe debilitating migraines that I was hospitalized. Ted and I both had similar symptoms other than the migraines. We had short-term memory loss, chronic fatigue, and something called the pall or brain fog. And I just kept, I became my own investigative sleuth because of my fitness background, my healthy lifestyle. I mean, I felt like I was the walking poster child for health and fitness. And there was a time that I could barely walk up a flight of stairs.
Wow.
So we went to a toxicologist in Royal Oak, Michigan, and found that Ted and I both had 4 different types of mold in our bloodstream. I was also diagnosed with having pre-emphysema, and I don't smoke. And our son Rocco had severe asthma. So back then, back around 2002, 2003, there was no precedence for this. I was kind of a pioneer in the mold industry. And as a matter of fact, I'm doing a documentary. I'm producing a documentary about it now because a lot of people really still continue to ask me questions. I didn't want to be known as the mold lady, but I know way too much about it now. And my goal in life is to help people. So I came across all these alternative remedies because I didn't want to continue to take medication that would cover the problem. So it took me a little bit longer to heal. It took about a year out of my life. I found out that male testosterone actually keeps you guys going. It strengthens you guys. But also because I was in the home more than Ted or Rocco, I got sicker than anybody else. So I kind of got pushed into a corner. And because of my young son, because of I wanted to take care of my family, I had to come out fighting. I had to try and find my own solutions. And that's why I'm here. And honestly, that's why I wrote this book, 4 Minutes to Happy, that's available now on Amazon.com. I talk about tips and tricks that can change your life in just a few minutes a day. And I do talk a lot about mold in there as well.
Wow. So from a mold standpoint, and I've seen a lot of mold issues. A lot of my colleagues across the country also deal with it, and we're in Florida, so we see it a lot because of the humidity levels. Yeah. Now, when you were, quote-unquote, kind of diagnosed with it, did they tell you the different kinds you were dealing with? Was it black mold? Did they have an understanding at that point the type you're dealing with? Because so many people, if they don't get it right, they can take years and years to still not heal.
The problem is, yes, we found out that we had one of the worst types of mold, the worst type, which is Stachybotrys. Mm-hmm. We also had like 4 of the major types of mold in our bloodstream and in our home. And again, back then, it wasn't really talked about. We found out that Ed McMahon, Johnny Carson's sidekick, had it. Lou Ferrigno had it. Aaron Brockovich had it. Dr. Oz had it. And the actress Brittany Murphy had it in her home. And at 32 years of age, she died from pneumonia. So there's no cut and dry case like, yes, I had migraines because of toxic mold exposure, or yes, Brittany Murphy died because she had toxic mold in her home. The problem is mold is growing prevalently outside. There's 1,000 different types of mold, but there are some deadly killers. Like the number one is Stachybotrys mold. You have that in your house. My advice is to get out. It's not worth your health. It's not. I literally had to, Ted and I and Rocco, we had to walk away from our home. Again, that was once featured on MTV Cribs, with just the clothes on our back, and then get rid of those, because one mold spore is 1/100th the size of human hair, and its natural defense mechanism is to propagate 1,000,000 times. And we're now learning so much about the coronavirus, and I can't say I already knew about this, but it's a lifelong issue for me, because I could get reinfected at any moment, and I'm more susceptible to it. So I'm staying home, and I'm self-quarantined, and really, we haven't changed anything. We have a small ranch in Texas, small compared to many ranch owners' standards, and we live off the land. So we haven't really changed anything. And I love working. I love talking to people like you. I love spending my time educating and enlightening people about health issues, because you know what? If you don't have your health, you can't do the things that you love to do with the people you love. You can't do anything. So my goal in life is to help people become happier and healthier.
Totally true. And you're so right regarding mold, or even like the coronavirus. And what happens is, and this is happening today, I've seen it in the news, is the fact that people are dying from either a virus or a mold, whatever it is, but in reality what they had was they had about 4 other different things going on in their body that was actually weakening their body. But what happened was, with mold, it actually holds the body down, but you could have potentially cardiovascular disease, you could have diabetes, you could have many different things going off of this. And so kind of I'm sure you were probably grouped into that bunch. They were trying to figure out what was going on. You maybe even had other diagnoses at the time where they were trying to figure it out, but then they solidified, or they went right after the mold aspect, which was massive. And you had it throughout the whole house. Was that the case, or was it mostly in a room? Or
it was in certain areas, but the problem is that it got so far gone that nobody knew how to remediate it. I actually had the house tested 3 times, and it came up negative twice, and on the 3rd time it was positive. So back then, again, people didn't know what they were doing. Mold remediators, fortunately, now are better at this. I can read a mold report like there's no tomorrow, sadly,
yep.
But it's very critical, and you're absolutely right. I think that the underlying, I'm not a doctor, you are, but the underlying issues now with the coronavirus is, and people have been talking about it, is that it can come back. And so that's what I've experienced. The mold mycotoxin is much like the Lyme disease spirochete, where it can lay dormant in one of your body's organs for months or even years. And then you have an inciting event, whether it's emotionally stressful or physically stressful. You know, you get in a car accident or whatever, you lose your job, you lose your divorce, you're stressed out, your body reacts, and that spirochete and that mold mycotoxin and the coronavirus, everything can reignite. So it's interesting how this is all kind of related.
Totally true. And you're so right in so many levels. And quite honestly, I will tell you, even as a physician, now I'm in the alternative health field, I'm a chiropractor, I deal with clinical nutrition, but I will tell you, you know more about this subject than probably 95+% of the doctors out there, especially in the medical field, not because they're bad people, but they don't even look at this area. And so it's fascinating is, even you who say I'm not a doctor, no, you have more knowledge on this, because not only did you go through it, but your research is deadly accurate. It's the exact stuff we see today. So really well done on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, go ahead.
No, it's kind of a shame that I had to endure that. And I think each and every one of us who had been in the same situation, you would have done the same thing. You want to heal yourself and your family. And I didn't want to, take drugs. And I found a doctor, Dr. William Ray in Dallas, Texas, who ran the Environmental Health Center in Dallas, and I was doing alternative remedies like infrared sauna, vitamin IV, and oxygen every day for a month. I was there for a month, and I was doing that 18 years ago. So I still do that. I still keep up on it. And yeah, it's something that I think more and more people, and this is one of the things maybe you can help me with too, that I'm trying to do in my research and producing my documentary, is that I'm trying to get insurance companies to change the system. As when we get ill, the number one thing to do is dole out medicine.
Yep.
Well, what if you would spend that money rather than getting prescription drugs or no offense, but going to the doctor. What if you spent that on an infrared sauna treatment or oxygen or vitamin IV and did some alternative remedies to heal your body from the inside out rather than masking the problem?
You're preaching to the choir, ma'am. Absolutely. What I think is ultimately going to occur, and we can definitely chat about this too, is I think ultimately insurance has to go to a more HSA or FSA style where they actually allow you to spend essentially on a card. The money you put in should go to whatever you want to. But I completely agree, and we'll email back and forth about that, is how we figure that out, because really that you are so far ahead of the curve, not on just the mold, but you're far ahead of the curve on how healthcare should actually work, because as I spoke last night in my live, that healthcare was not put in the Constitution for a reason, because it comes down to self-responsibility. Our dollars should go towards what we want to do to take care of ourselves in our relationship with our doctor. But it's very fascinating you say that, because absolutely that has to be changed. Now, nutritionally, I know you guys are amazing in the kitchen. You guys do some awesome stuff.
We're okay.
What did you change when you were going through this? Did you change anything? Were you already on kind of the healthy road? Because I believe you're actually one of the founders of Zuma. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so you no okay. So you've been but you've been in this field for a long time. What did you change? What did you do?
Well, I worked with Zumba. I developed programs for Zumba. Okay. I've been a Zumba fitness instructor for 10, 11 years, but been teaching group fitness since 1980. So I've done pretty much everything. I've always been health-minded. I just knew that I didn't want to eat junk food. And I knew, because when I was in college, honestly, I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. And I wanted to lose weight, and I couldn't figure it out. And I tried so many different things, from starving myself to wrapping my body in saran wrap, putting on a sweatsuit, going out to run, and then going in the sauna.
Wow.
Kid you not. I tried everything. And when I, thought about it, it's really, I'm not going to say it's quite simple, because there's a lot of other things a lot of other pre-existing conditions that people can have that will minimize their ability to lose weight genetically. So what I did was I just eliminated chemicals and preservatives. And especially when I got sick, I realized, I can't have MSG because that'll give me a migraine. I started becoming my own investigative sleuth, and I started out on the rotation diet, where if I ate chicken on Monday, I wouldn't have it for 4 days. And then I found out slowly what my body would react to and what it wouldn't react to. And then I started reintroducing foods to my body. But I've always tried to eat whole foods and that aren't processed. The more you process it, the more you cook it at the higher the temperature, the more nutritional value you lose. So I eat a lot of raw vegetables. I have some cooked as well, but we have venison, and I try to eat closer to the hoof, the ground, or the tree.
Very nice. And I think you also did some juicing based on some of the pictures you have up and things like that. And so you have an understanding on detoxification as well.
Yes. I've been juicing, I don't know how many years now, 20 years, as long as I can remember. And I don't do it as much now, but I attribute juicing and eating healthy to my recovery. So my best recommendation for people who are watching today is to take a look at the food that you eat and go, is that the best fuel for my body? Juicing is great. Eating a lot of salads. I eat now more keto prone. More of the Mediterranean diet. I eat a lot of nuts. I eat seafood. I eat spinach. I eat chocolate. I love chocolate. I have chocolate just about every day.
Nice.
So I really don't minimize my food cravings. If I want to have a little bit of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, I do. I feel like I'm on the 80-20 diet. 80% of what I eat, or actually 90% of what I eat, is so clean and so healthy. And you know what? Life is meant to be worth living and enjoying. So I do allow myself indulgences.
Yes, but a big difference for you, and I can already tell, obviously, just looking at you, because you still look like you're like 30 years old. So you clearly, when you do eat something that's not necessarily great, you don't continue binging on it and binging on it and binging on it, which is what America does, unfortunately. We have a problem with that, where we have a little bite of it, and next thing you know, we're eating it for a month in a row.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like this coronavirus is really going to change what's going on in overall American societies. I'll never forget, we went to Europe years and years ago, and we wanted a takeout meal. And they were like, why do you want to take it out? Just sit down, enjoy yourself, relax. And I thought about this, and now that's what we're being forced to do, is sit down, relax, enjoy our families, take our time, and rest. And I think, we've been so prone. I remember I was driving my son to and from school and to and from practices 2, 3, 4 times a day, and eating in the car a lot. I think those times are changing, and I think we're going to get back to whole food, being more self-sufficient, and really, it's a message that a lot of Americans, as a society, we're overweight. More than 50% of us are overweight. And it's not a good example that we're sending to our kids, because we're setting them up for a lifetime of potential illnesses as well.
I completely agree. And I want to talk to you about your book, because obviously it's very important. But I find something very interesting about you, which I thought was fascinating, because I grew up around a lot of hunters. I grew up around that country mindset of taking care of ourselves, self-sufficient, etc. And I love that mindset. But also, you bring with you a degree in metaphysics, so you understand the mind. And I love the fact that you have combined kind of this traditional, old school way of living, but you also understand how the mind plays into it, how to be positive, and how you actually basically create your own destiny. Give me a little bit of background on that and how that plays into the book, because your book, it's 4 Minutes to Happy. How did that all play out?
Well, again, it was really started with me when I went through some turbulent times in my life and in my marriage, times that brought me to my knees, and that were what we call dark nights of the soul. And I had to become, again, my own investigative sleuth, and realize that, I didn't want to be sad. I didn't want to feel sorry for myself. I wanted to figure out. And then I also, like, the connection between the mind and the body. Some of the doctors that I went to would say, back when we had, remember the cassette tapes that you put in the Walkman? Are you old enough to remember that?
I am, yes, I am. I am.
Well, I remember going to one doctor who said, listen to these nature sounds on cassette tapes, close the doors, turn off the lights, and just relax. And I thought, well, why don't I just go out hunting with my husband? I can hear the nature sounds, and I'm shutting down electronics. And that's really when I started to realize, number one, that I wanted to become a hunter. The Y2K fears were coming around, and I thought, if something happened to my husband, could I take care of myself and my son? And I realized that there is a mind-body connection, a physiological connection. When somebody says something to you that hurts your feelings, you either get, a tightness in your chest or in your stomach. It does affect you physiologically. So the reason I got that degree, my master's degree in metaphysics, is because I figured I'm going to do all this research. I might as well get something out of it. And what I discovered is that, yes, there is a physiological reaction to some of the stress that we have. And if we can learn to control that through meditation and being more mindful, we can actually be healthier too.
I completely agree. It's actually, as I've studied, we talk about potentially, and even in the healthcare world, that potentially 70, upwards of 80% of actual illness comes a lot of times from the psychosomatic standpoint, meaning somebody has people that are, the most often we have people who are around somebody who's just very negative. They're putting them down. They're not letting them grow. They're not letting them expand. So that's so important. And obviously you are really pushing that narrative, is we have to take care of ourselves. We have to understand that you have to have a positive mindset. So that's brilliant. Now, why 4 minutes? Tell me about 4 minutes. Now, I understand this because I watched one of your interviews with Ted, but how 4 minutes turns into actually more.
Well, this honestly was inspired by, it was divine inspiration that got me to write this book. When I recovered from my toxic mold exposure, I always wanted to write a book about it. And I thought, I need to share this information with people. And I wanted to write a book, and I thought it would be called 50 is the New 30, because at the time I was approaching 50. Now I'm approaching 60. But the words weren't flowing, and I had a hard time, life just gets in the way. So I literally said my prayers one night and asked God for guidance. And the next morning I woke up and I had this all-encompassing voice that overwhelmed me, that said the book should be called 4 Minutes to Happy, and that I should talk about little tips and tricks that could change your life in just 4 minutes a day, not just about people who are aging gracefully and want to know about that, but yes, about mold, and yes, about the mind-body connection, about the Enneagram, and about things that you can do in just 4 minutes a day. And here's the dirty little secret. 4 minutes can turn into 10 or 20 or even 30. But a lot of people, and myself included, when I'm working out at home, I get distracted. You know, we've got I got a text message. I've got to respond immediately to the text message. And if we start, okay, I'm going to do 4 minutes of sit-ups and push-ups, and we commit to that every day, doing something different, whether it's cleaning out a closet, learning a new language, working on meditation and being more thoughtful, whatever it is, if we commit to the 4 minutes, chances are that will turn into even more, and we can become healthier and happier. But I'm slipping in 4 minutes so I can attract people to let them understand, you got this, you can do this.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, it's so funny because my wife and I stay very busy, and so a lot of times, cleaning things around the house or organizing can sometimes take a back burner, unfortunately. But it's so funny because every once in a while we go into the office and you're looking at it going, oh, I got to clean this, I got to file this. And you start off saying, okay, just 4 minutes. And next thing you know, you actually start feeling better because you see organization coming in, you see order coming in, you see clean coming in. And next thing you know, a half an hour later, you've kind of done at least a part of the job, or maybe all of the job, depending on how big the mess is. But it happens so fast, and that's such a win. So I think you probably seen, and you probably get a lot of people feedback on how they're winning in life just by applying that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I've been blessed to be able to travel all over the world sharing my passion for healthy living with others. I've trained Zumba instructors in Australia and Paris and London and all over the United States. And honestly, the outpouring of love that I've received it buoys my spirit. It buoys my soul. And I'm so fortunate and blessed to have those negative situations in my life that cause me to, every day I get up and I thank God that I am able to take another breath and able to share this information with other people so that I can inspire others.
Beautiful. I love it. Now I want to talk some America, because you are an American woman. Now the first thing I want to dive into, and I want to dive into this because, one, I know you're fantastic at it, but two, this is empowering to women, and we're in a world now where the world has changed. Self-defense is very big. Survival is very big. But you are a gun owner. You're a hunter. You shoot. How has that empowered you? How did that all come about? Was that just through Ted, or were you kind of brought up that way? How did that work?
No, I wasn't raised in a hunting family. I wasn't around guns when I was growing up. And when I met Ted, it was actually baptism by fire. Hadn't been to a rock and roll concert. So all of these things were new. But when we started getting death threats, because Ted was a hunter, and they targeted our son, and we have death threats on file with the FBI. I thought, no, nobody pushes baby in the corner. I need to protect my son and my family. So that's when I started learning I started taking it seriously, because there's a lot of crazy people out there. There is evil in this world, and I'm always aware of my surroundings, and Ted has taught me that. So I'm lucky that I've had one of the world's greatest marksmen to teach me how to shoot, how to hunt, and how to take care of myself if I have to.
You are a survival woman, and would you say that your confidence and your just kind of female empowerment went through the roof as you got better and better?
You know what? It's funny that you should say that, because I had a women's empowerment program that was supposed to go live next week, and I canceled it about a week ago when the coronavirus came out, and I thought, no, nobody's going to want to do it. And I started thinking, no, this is the perfect time. So I'm going to keep in touch with you, and I'm going to let you know when I relaunch it. I'm thinking next week, if we're going to be sequestered, we might as well learn and become more empowered. And yes, this has all been through trial and error. When I had those moments, the dark night of the soul, so to speak, and my health issues, it caused me to become more empowered. I'm not the same person I was 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. I have changed, and I want to share this information with other women so that they can learn how to become more empowered themselves.
Beautiful. I love that. Now, you obviously have been in the celebrity world, obviously from the rock and roll standpoint, but also from your background and being on television. As you kind of went around the country, obviously not right now, but in the past, and I'm sure obviously in the future as we go through this, what do you hear from people? What do you hear from Americans? What do you hear all the people following? Because obviously you and Ted are American icons at the end of the day. And so you probably get a ton of support on this country and how this country should really run. And we all know we need to get rid of this evil that's been lurking below the scenes or wherever it is, and all the stuff that you and I have watched on documentaries and everything else. What is the feedback you've gotten from fans, from Americans in the past, and things like that on pride in this country still?
Well, right now, I think is a great moment to be an American, because if you think about it, we haven't been fighting. There's no talk of impeachment. We're supporting our country, each other. There's no debating Republicans and Democrats. We are taking this opportunity to come together, and that's really what true patriotism is all about. Supporting one another. If there was a fire or earthquake or whatever, and I'm saving somebody or trying to save somebody, I'm not going to go, are you a Republican or a Democrat? No, I can't. This has divided our country in the past, and now I feel so strongly that we've come together. When President Trump first got elected, Ted and I were invited to go to the White House with Governor Sarah Palin and also Kid Rock. And I remember posting some photos. This was my first experience, wake-up call. I posted some photos of Sarah Palin and I taking selfies in the Oval Office. And then, of course, with Ted and I with President Trump. I got so much hate, death threats, serious death threats. And at first, I spent days bawling my eyes out and crying. And I got over that. I pulled up my bootstraps, and I've learned a lot from Ted, because the haters don't bother them. They fuel his fire. I know what I believe now, and I'm more empowered than ever to speak my mind, hopefully in a way that is not threatening to other people, but welcoming. My goal in life is to encourage people to do their own discovery, their own research, and find out what rings true for them. I don't want to offend anybody. I really don't. I want to encourage us to come together at this difficult time.
Totally. It's interesting you brought up, because as a physician, people come in to see me, and I don't ask obviously their religion. I don't ask what their background is. I don't ask their political ideology. I see them as a human being, and I would help them as a human being, just like I would if I was out on the road and somebody came about. And the same thing from a presidential standpoint. No matter who is the president, no matter who is in Congress, none of us really want anyone to fail. Now, we may not like some policies and things like that, but we don't want a president to fail. Now, I have a couple people who've been around the current president, and they say that, not necessarily putting him on a pedestal necessarily, but just saying absolutely brilliant, cares for the country, really is a good person, a good family. What has been your feedback on being around that family as well?
We had the opportunity to spend a few hours with President Trump at the White House and have dinner with him. And I have to say that I did my research, being kind of a tomboy growing up. I used to race motocross, and I thought, okay, before we go to the White House, I got to learn how to hold the fork and the knife, and how to eat right, and how to have my manners, and how to, and all of that just fell through. He made us feel so welcome, and he was so kind and generous, and asking us questions. And not only did we spend time with him at the White House, but Ted was asked to do some stump speeches for him when he was first running in November of 2016. So we've spent some time with him, and I've always felt the same way. I've always gotten the same reaction. And we also have been fortunate enough to spend time with Don Trump Jr. And they're salt of the earth people. I really do have to say that they care about America. They're putting America first. They are patriots, and they really want us to come back together as a country, to be healthy and to be happy.
That's awesome. Now, my last political question, then I'll ask you another health one before we end today. But you posted on your Instagram, I think it was about a week or so ago, and I loved it. But I also follow your Instagram, and you posted a picture of you guys with, at the time, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Kennedy. So you have also been around them. I'm not going to say whether I think they are still around or not, but what were they like? Because quite honestly, when I go back into my history books and I talk about this, and I'm a more conservative mindset myself, but I still believe one of the greatest presidents we've ever had was actually a Democrat, and that was JFK. But what was John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn like being around?
Same thing, as President Trump, very kind and warm and loving. And again, I now know what it's like because I've been in the presence of great people, very famous. I myself, I'm not a celebrity. I'm married to one. And I've seen a lot of people say, they get flustered when they're around Ted and they want to ask for his autograph and things like that. And I felt the same way about the president, about JFK Jr. And you know what? All of that just fell out. They just are real people. We're real people. And they made us feel warm and welcome. And it was just a great experience. And the reason I posted that photo is, I have been blessed to be able to be surrounded and be in the company of some incredible human beings. And I'm so grateful for that, and it makes me want to be a better person as well.
That's awesome. So now I'm not going to go down a road here whether I think it's true or not true because I've been beat up on this a little bit, but I like to get sources from everywhere. You also follow the Q phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I know you said in the past that it doesn't necessarily matter whether it's real or not. It gives you a lot of hope, doesn't it?
It really does. And when I first found out about Q, to be honest with you, it's just recently, just a couple of months ago, and I know people who have been following Q for years. So I'm new to this. And when I found out, the same thing that happened to me when I was exposed to toxic mold and when I got sick and almost died from pre-emphysema, I wanted to find out more about how to be healthier. And in this situation, I wanted to find about that which I never thought I would be looking into. I thought how could this be? How could this happen? And I had no idea some of this stuff existed. So I went down the rabbit hole. I did my own research, and that's what I really advise everybody else to do. I'm not saying whether I believe, whether I don't believe. I want everybody to become their own investigative sleuth and encourage them. But I do have my beliefs, and it does, to answer your question, it does make me hopeful.
I love it, and I think that's one of the biggest things is we're trying to raise consciousness of everyone in America that our country needs to be taken back into its rightful owners, which is we the people, and anything that's positive. Hope is such a powerful thing, and as you said, in the metaphysical world, the mind, the power of the mind. If we get enough people thinking positively like that, there is no way we can't win. So I love that positive outlook by you, and I love how you state that. Before we head out today, what are some of the, so a lot of people are watching, and we have a lot of, specifically women too, I'm not saying men don't deal with this as well, but a lot of women who are dealing with the mold issue, or they're dealing with symptoms that could have been similar to yours or not even similar to yours, but they're dealing with something. Give them some positive feedback. What should they look for? What should be their next step in possibly finding out what they're dealing with and how to actually eradicate this?
On my website, ShemaneNugent.rocks, I have a free downloadable checklist that you can do that I go through. I describe the things that you should do. Number one, if you think you have mold in your home, you probably do. Best thing to do is get it tested. Nowadays, we can't have somebody coming into our home and testing, but you can order a kit from Amazon.com or Lowe's or someplace and get a quick test. It's not going to tell you exactly what type of mold that you have in your home, but it can elevate your awareness. I would steer clear of carpeting. And the other thing that happened to Ted and I is we became chemically sensitive. So if you've got chemically scented candles, potpourri, you use downy fabric softener, which is a big no-no. Mm-hmm. This can alter your hormone system. It can be a hormone disruptor, and it can cause headaches and flu-like symptoms. If your kids have allergies, put it this way. If you just move it into a home or an apartment or got a new car, because it can happen in your car too. and you start getting symptoms like runny nose, itchy, watery eyes, upper respiratory symptoms. And nowadays, if we've got to think about the coronavirus, obviously, but all I'm asking is that people become their own investigative sleuths and find out more and more about toxic mold. I think that there is a very direct connection to our overall health, and moving forward, we've got to keep our bodies healthy. They're the only ones we got. So steer clear of chemicals and pesticides and dyes. Like, why do they put food dyes in everything? Even dog food. My dog got a cavity. My 1-year-old German Shepherd got a cavity. And I thought, how did she get a cavity? In almost all dog treats, they have sugar and dyes. So become your own investigative sleuth and start becoming a label reader. Get rid of sugar, get rid of those food dyes, and fuel your body with wholesome food.
So beautifully said. Where, Shemane, can people follow you for your books, your programs, your podcasts, etc., social media, all that stuff?
I am on social media almost every day, on Instagram and Facebook. I've been going live every day, especially now with what's going on about the coronavirus. It seems like there's updates. And when I did post that photo and a few other things, I posted a video about who I think Q is, and that got a lot of attention. Hi, somebody just walked in your door.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay. I started getting a lot more recognition for that. And so I want to keep people aware of what's going on. I'm getting a lot of text messages. People who I haven't heard from in years are asking me questions. My job is I feel my goal is to educate and enlighten people, and to have them become their own investigative research. So I'm on Facebook. It's Shemane.Nugent on Facebook. Look for the blue check. On Instagram, look for the blue check. And I'm posting more videos on YouTube as well. And I'm here, there, and everywhere.
Awesome. Promote your book one more time, 4 Minutes to Happy.
Okay. My book, 4 Minutes to Happy, is tips and tricks that can change your life, can make you happier and healthier in just 4 minutes a day. It's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Awesome. Shemane, thank you for being such a warrior. Thank you for being a health advocate. Thank you for handling something like mold in yourself, one, being responsible for it and handling it and getting better, but also the amount of work you're doing to spread that, because ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't take a physician to talk about it. It takes people who actually have been through it, but you are a powerful voice to women and men out there on how to handle their health, so I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Very welcome. So everyone share this far and wide, because whether it's political, whether it's health related, whether it's just life related, mind, family, God, does not matter. The way we actually push this out there, as I say every single night when I go live, is we have to push this positive news out to people. And as we do this, more and more people wake up. So I appreciate that. I appreciate Shemane being on. They're an amazing family. They're doing good in America. We're going to bring America back to where it's supposed to be, which is us and not some globalist elite. And we're going to bring healthcare back to people instead of being in companies' hands. We're going to put it in people's hands, and that's how we actually get people better. So Dr. Jason Dean, Revolution Network, signing off with Shemane Nugent. I appreciate all of you. Have an amazing day. Be well and take care of yourself. Goodbye.